Please become a Patreon and support the show. Merci.
And now our host, Stephen Lee Morris.
Teen Tix LA is an arts access program for teenagers that was inspired by and is now working in partnership with Teen Tix Seattle, which was inspired by a similar organization in New York called High Five. The aim of the program is to provide teenagers from across Southern California with a complimentary digital pass with which they can access $5 tickets to events presented by member arts organizations. These include the performing arts, the visual arts, and music venues. 6 months ago, Teen Tix LA hired its first executive director. Her name is Allison Whorton. She actually grew up here in Los Angeles, and after spending several years in New York, has now returned to the city of her birth. Full disclosure, I serve on the steering committee for Teen Tix LA. Allison Whorton, welcome to Animal Farm.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Nice to be here. You are in an almost empty apartment because you're moving in from New York. However, we should say moving back to Southern California. Tell us about where you grew up and your credentials as a Southern Californian or as an Angelino.
Sure. Absolutely. I was born and raised in Los Angeles in North Hollywood, so not too far from where I am now, and grew up here, went to, elementary, middle, and high school here. And it's really where my appreciation and love of the arts was born, I should say, which is why moving back to Los Angeles is so exciting. And then after high school, I went to college, and after college, I went to Sarah Lawrence in New York.
You did an undergraduate program at Sarah Lawrence.
I did, yeah, exactly.
And then what happened? You stayed in New York?
Right after I graduated, I got a fellowship at Berkeley Rep for 11 months in their School of Theater in their education department, which was a really wonderful experience. I helped with their teen council. I helped with their in-school outreach programs. I helped with their docent program. I made study guides, and it was a really great introduction into regional theater and working at a nonprofit arts organization. And it was the fellowship program is incredible. And I learned a lot. And yeah, after my 11 months there, I decided to go back to New York. I worked at New York City Center for a while in their education department. That's a big performing arts organization in Manhattan. And they, Alvin Ailey performs there, and they have Encore's musical theater program, and I ran their outreach program for a while. And then from there, I went.
So these are all youth outreach, correct?
Yes, youth outreach programs, exactly. Yeah. So at City Center, I was mostly working with elementary school and middle school populations. And then when I went to Arts Connection, which was my most recent job where I was for about 6 years, that's a big comprehensive arts education nonprofit. I was in their teen programs department. And so there I ran their teen advisory council. I developed a partnership with the Broadway show Dear Evan Hansen, where teens would go see the Broadway show and then create visual art in response to the musical. And then that art was installed backstage in the Broadway theater, which was a really incredible opportunity. And actors would choose their favorite art and get to have it in their dressing room. And then most relevant is that I ran their High Five tickets to the arts program for several years, which allowed teens to purchase $5 tickets to go see arts and theater, music, whatever it was across the city.
So that's very much it's almost like a direct first cousin to Teen Tix Seattle at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and from my understanding, Teen Tics kind of used high five as a bit of a model and a bit of a I think they met with high five at early stages in the early 2000s and, kind of explored, used it as inspiration for Teen Tics. So it's kind of great to have, worked with that program and then coming back to Teen Tics. So, I'm happy to take what I learned in New York and bringing it back to my hometown.
And you were hired here about 6 months ago, correct?
6 months ago, yeah, exactly.
So, what has happened in those 6 months? Teen Tics, before you arrived, it did not. They had a program director or program lead, program advisor, whatever they called it.
Yeah, consultant was my predecessor. Yeah.
But now you have we have an executive director, so you can really take the full mantle of the organization. And what exactly has been accomplished in the 6 months?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's been a busy 6 months. I, hit the ground running. I think one of the major successes has been working in collaboration with Teen Tics in Seattle on our website, which was an incredibly important step to have a resource and, somewhere to show potential partners, potential teams, potential funders that we exist and that we are, almost ready and raring to go. And so I worked closely with the executive director in Seattle on making la.teentics.org a reality. And that launched this summer, I believe in July officially. So that was a major first step. Another important thing that took place was developing a strategy for outreach and partnership building. Given the expansive geography of Los Angeles, it was important.
Just to back up for a minute, there's 2 points I just want to clarify. First, this Teen Tics LA model is not only modeled on Teen Tics Seattle, is actually administratively in partnership and contractually in partnership with Teen Tics Seattle. So it is it's an ancillary division of Teen Tics Seattle.
Yeah, we're the first official chapter of Teen Tics Seattle.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. That's the first thing. And secondly, when we talk about partners, there's 2 levels of partners that should be clarified. There are organizations that are going to permit their shows to be specific tickets to be given away of their shows at a $5 cost. And they are in partnership with the organization in the endeavor to promote youth access. And then there are the teams themselves, which is another kind of partner. They get a complimentary pass, which entitles them, I should say, because it isn't an entitlement. The organizations may say, no, we're sold out. We don't have any tickets available. Right. But it allows these different organizations, should they have tickets available, to give them to the teens who flash their card, and then they pay $5. Just to clarify how this works. Okay, so continue with these partners. Yes. Yeah.
And just to that point too, a big something that's really important to reaching those teens is also building relationships with youth serving organizations and community-based organizations who work with these teens and do incredible, youth development programming already, so that we can be sure to access as many teens as possible to encourage them to sign up for a pass. So basically, when I got to the position or got to the program, it became clear that we needed to, kind of figure out and designate areas to focus our outreach instead of focusing on the whole expansive breadth of Los Angeles, and to kind of determine 4 or 5 areas to focus our energy on building those partnerships with arts organizations, cultural organizations, as well as youth serving and youth development organizations.
So start small, make it just show
start small, right? So that we can, focus on 4 to 5 hubs to get off the ground, 3 to 4 partners within each hub, so that we can kind of, start slow, start small, and build incrementally.
Where are these initial hubs, these we'll call them trial hubs?
Exactly. So we're starting off with the San Gabriel Valley, West Los Angeles, Mid-City and Hollywood, and downtown Los Angeles are our
say
main
they're tiny hubs, but that's it feels like 2/3 of the city.
I know, it does. Yeah. But, it's still, you have to sort of think creatively about the geography, and it's a good guiding point for us to, think about who we're meeting with and who we bring on board at this early stage. And and currently I'm just in the thick of meetings land, and just meeting with as many people as possible and trying to have arts organizations commit to offering Teen Tix tickets. And overwhelmingly, the response has been positive and enthusiastic, which has been really encouraging for me. And we already have a handful of organizations committed to working with us, which is
can you say who they are? If they're
we have Pasadena Playhouse was the first one to officially come on board, which is amazing. We have East West Players committed, Independent Shakespeare Company, the Fountain Theater, the Wallace Annenberg Center for the Performing Arts, to name a few, that are Lineage Performing Arts Center, and more on the way that we're kind of in conversations with.
I just want to say, for the record, I slightly misspoke when I said that's 2/3 of the city. Actually, the hubs you're describing are beyond the city limits. They're actually...
Well, yes, that's true, right. It goes beyond.
Yeah.
Very true.
It is a Southern California project, not a city of Los Angeles project.
Yes, good point.
What do you see? Oh, there was another breakthrough that came through last week. I don't know if this is permanent, but Metro, in terms of getting people to the theaters, Metro is offering free transportation on all the subways and buses to anybody who can show a student K through 12. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah, which is incredible, and something that it has been pertinent to our conversations over the past several months, and even before I started. Teen Tix is endeavoring to remove all barriers of access that prevent teens from experiencing the arts in their communities, and transportation is a big one. Not having a ride to an arts venue or not being near a public transportation stop. And we had plans of reaching out to Metro and seeing what we could do in terms of collaboration. And there's still a lot of room for that in terms of promoting these free Metro tickets, and then Teen Tix, of course. But the fact that now high school students and middle school students can ride the Metro for free is incredible. And the timing feels kismet almost, that, as we're getting ready to launch, there's, it really made me excited about the coming months. And
it's like the textbook definition of symbiosis, because not only does Metro get to create an incentive to get young people to actually use public transportation, which is tricky, but of course it serves the purposes of Teen Tix.
Absolutely,
perfectly.
yeah.
It just takes down another financial barrier, because those ticket prices have been creeping up. Those one-way fares and even the 10-day passes have been going up.
Right.
So that's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of room for, cross promotion and, things, because teens have to know that these tickets are available both for the Metro and for Teen Tix. So we'll see what happens, but certainly exciting that is being prioritized at the Metro office, and, good for us for sure, and good for teens and access.
That's fantastic. And the ground level support thus far has come from a combination of the Amundsen Foundation and the Nonprofit Sustainability Initiative, which is a division of California Community Foundation, correct?
Correct, yes.
They get, and of course, obviously, a part of your job description is getting other sources of funding and revenue streams into the program.
Right.
Good luck with that. And I don't. That sounds like it's got a twinge of sarcasm, and it really doesn't. That is earnest. Good luck with that. This probably will follow.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we have such a engaged and well-connected advisory board, and so I've had some initial meetings with potential funders over the past few months, and there's a lot of excitement and a lot of people, it feels good to have meetings like that and have folks say, yes, like we need a program like this. And maybe there's not funding right now, but they definitely want to be kept in the loop. And, everyone understands the need for something like this. And so that, hopefully bodes well for us moving forward.
With luck moving forward, this will at least redress the common complaint that audiences in institutional arts venues have been tilting upwards in age, increasingly so lately, and that at least the NEA statistics show that the younger generations are not picking up the slack simply because there haven't been the programs in place to incentivize the younger generations picking up the slack, such as arts education in the public schools, and we could go on and on and on. So what's happening, I guess, the way that is being redressed is through programs like this and through programs like High Five in New York. And it's really up to the theaters themselves. And this will be the final question. The theaters have their own arts outreach programs. What is the difference between, say, 24th Street Theater, which has, or Center Theater Group, which both have really vigorous youth outreach programs, and Teen Tics? And what do you say to those people when they say, well, we already have our own program, we don't need something competing with ours?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think my favorite component, or one of many components that I love about the model of Teen Tics and Teen Tics LA, is that we are really emboldening teens to engage with the arts on their own terms. So we're not necessarily arranging school field trips where teens visit a theater once and then never visit again. We are really endeavoring to cultivate or help facilitate a relationship between teen and arts partner, so that teen can take that initiative to go see arts events with whatever frequency fits within their lifestyle. And then hopefully when they age out of that teen age group, will continue to be a patron of that arts partner. So, you know, they have the resources available to them through this program to, you know, engage with the arts as if they were any other patron. You know, they go see a regular performance on a regular night. It's not a special teen night or a special, you know, though we do offer teen nights eventually, or hope to eventually, you know, that they are integrated within kind of the larger arts and patron community of any theater. Which is something that I really appreciate. So, you know, what I would say to an organization like that is that we're a supplement to, you know, the amazing education programs that you already offer. And if a school group goes to see a show at your theater, then you can share with them ways that those teens who really loved and fell in love with the experience, they can keep going, and they can go for cheaper than a movie ticket. You know, they can, instead of going to see the new, you know, Marvel movie on a Sunday, they can say, hey, like, what matinee is available to us, and can really start to integrate that into their lifestyle and into their hobbies and into, you know, hopefully finding a passion for being a patron of the arts.
That's really an optimistic theory. The question is, from your experience and from the data collected of both High Five in New York and Teen Tics in Seattle, is there any data to support that this is actually happening?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I know that, you know, Teen Tics in Seattle has become a kind of a incredibly important component to teens' lives and the success of arts and cultural organizations. And over 60,000 teens have signed up for a pass since 2004 in Seattle. And, you know, they have been able to develop, you know, more in-depth youth development programming since then. And, you know, in High Five,
did you say 2004?
2004, yeah.
17 years, this program. So
yes.
And it's thriving. So they must be doing something.
Yes, exactly. You know, and we were able to look to Teen Tics in Seattle for their growth strategies and sort of what's worked and what hasn't worked in terms of teen outreach. And so looking to Seattle and High Five, where I was able to move, you know, close to 13,000 tickets to teens a year annually, and to know the kind of enthusiasm of the teens there, you know, in terms of checking out the newest off-Broadway show, I'm quite hopeful that teens here, once they find out about the program and, you know, how easy it is to use and how, you know, the barriers that we're removing through Teen Tics, I'm hopeful that teens here will kind of include that into their lifestyle, and that it'll be just as successful as it is in Seattle or a similar program in New York. I know that's optimism, but I feel hopeful. And, we surveyed teens a few years ago to gauge their interest in a program like this. And, the response there was also overwhelmingly positive. So, we're starting slow. We don't expect to have the numbers.
Positive, meaning they want.
Meaning that the potential to have a program like this in LA was exciting to them, and that they, in the past, decided not to check out a show at a theater in Los Angeles because of price or because of transportation access or because they didn't feel welcomed into spaces that they maybe would have wanted to attend. And so Teen Tix LA is helping facilitate and remove those barriers. So
what do they want to feel welcome?
I think they want to feel, just like any other patron would, and not necessarily singled out for being a teenager, and to feel like they are set up for success in art spaces, and like they, aren't going to be looked down upon for how they're dressed or, that sort of thing, which is a response that we got in surveys, that like maybe they sort of didn't know how to act or how to dress or felt uncomfortable. And so that's sort of,
they didn't know how to dress or how to.
Right. And that's exactly.
Well, adolescents are, it just goes with the territory that they have all kinds of identity issues, and they feel
absolutely
persecuted perhaps when they're not, or they feel looked down on perhaps when they're not. Perhaps what they're facing is indifference rather than condescension.
Sure.
Given that, I know Seattle does, and I think Teen Tix LA is pursuing the same thing. There's guidance on protocol. What does that entail, and how do you think this will help redress these issues of perception?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, and that's something that I'm still figuring out, but, resources for preparing before you go see a show, so that you, feel like you're dressed appropriately, or when to clap or when to stand up for a standing ovation, or when you go to a museum, don't touch the art, or things like that. And so we're working on coming up with some resources that will help teens feel like comfortable entering these venues that maybe they hadn't entered before or hadn't experienced before. And also, in terms of the way we represent performances on our website, teenifying language is kind of a word that Teen Tix in Seattle, I think, made up, in terms of making arts events seem like they can be for teens, and changing our marketing language so that they are enticing and exciting for teen audiences. Whereas, the theaters that we're working with may not be creating this copy with teens in mind. And that's where we come in to kind of show that these performances can be something that they should check out, and that, they can take a risk and see something maybe outside of their comfort zone, or, check out something new, because we kind of change up the language to appeal to teens in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Now, the shows themselves may or may not appeal to teens. That's really hard to tell. I teach at a state university, and these are older than teens, just slightly older than teens. Well, some of them are still teens, actually. And I am shocked by how some of them really plug into what I would consider old fusty dramas. And sometimes I find them to be more open-hearted than we give them credit for.
Absolutely. I know from experience in New York with High Five, the shows that teens would take risks on, and kind of the funkier, avant-garde-ier, weird shows that they would want to check out, that I would get this offer, and I would say, oh, I don't know if teens would be interested in this, and lo and behold, they would sell out.
Yes.
And I think
they're really good. They're good audiences for the kinds of shows that really push boundaries. Definitely. There aren't actually that many of those shows in the Southern California region, to be honest. So,
sure.
That would be definitely something to push them towards. They just don't seem to have the calcification of what an art event should be. That hasn't set in yet. And
Which is great. We can
terrific.
get in at this early stage and show them the kind of breadth that art can be, and that it can be all sorts of things, and that they should check out the smaller black box show. They don't just have to go to, the big venues.
But then you can do Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw, and they will, some of them, not all, some of them go, I don't know what that was. I had no clue. I just could not get my bearings. But
Right.
some of them will absolutely plug in and say they loved the story, that, they thought it has all kinds of resonances for the gender equality and the whole gender relationship issues. And they catch that really. So you just can't, I think the answer is you just can't tell. And it's the antithesis of marketing, which is you treat people as though they're blocks of herds that are you're going to like this kind of show. And an audience is not a solid entity. It's comprised of individuals, and they're all, which is why just opening up the possibilities for as many kinds of experience is such a good thing.
Exactly.
Allison Whorton, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was great to be here.
Next week, we're going to be joined by Luis Alfaro. Luis is a performer, a poet, a playwright, and the newly appointed Associate Artistic Director of Center Theatre Group.